Let's be brutally honest. What attracts a woman isn't always what we're told. It's not about looks, money, or even charm. It's about presence. It's about energy. It's about the man who doesn't flinch, doesn't beg, doesn't chase. The man who knows who he is and stands firm in it, regardless of who stands beside him or walks away. Modern dating advice has made men soft, over-apologetic, over-available, constantly adjusting themselves to be liked instead of becoming someone who commands respect. But if you study human nature, not just pop psychology, but deep, stoic, rooted observation, you begin to see a pattern, a quiet truth. Women are not drawn to the man himself. They are drawn to the emotional experience he creates. It's not about proving yourself. It's about embodying a mindset, a stoic core that doesn't react to every test, doesn't need approval, and never trades power for affection. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That includes relationships, because the moment you give someone else emotional control over your mind, you've already lost the frame. This isn't manipulation, it's mastery. It's understanding the psychology beneath the surface, the cravings, the insecurities, the silent desires. And once you learn to navigate them, you stop chasing connection and start attracting it. So let's dive in. 10 weaknesses, deep, often unspoken triggers that, when understood and mastered, put you in full control of the dynamic. No begging, no games, just quiet power, unshakable presence, and a version of you she can't ignore. 1. Craving for emotional escapism. Here's something most men don't realize. Women aren't falling for you. They're falling for the feeling you create. It's not about the facts of who you are. It's about the emotional experience she lives through when she's around you. If you don't create a compelling emotional world, she'll drift. Maybe not today, but soon. We live in a world where stimulation is endless. Romance novels, movies, social media feeds filled with stories, chaos, fantasy. And in that world, comfort is boring. Predictability is safe, yes, but it's not memorable. What she secretly craves, what pulls her in deeper than logic, is emotional contrast, intensity. A man who can pull her out of the monotony of daily life and into something she feels. The Stoics understood the power of presence. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are anxious, needy, predictable, your energy reflects that. But if your mind is sharp, calm, and quietly commanding, your presence becomes a world she wants to step into. Too many men make the mistake of being nice all the time, of always being available, of trying to impress or win her through consistent praise and predictable attention. But the more she can predict you, the less she feels you. Instead, become a man who carries mystery, not by being confusing or distant, but by being emotionally rich. One moment, you're teasing with sharp wit. The next, you're silent, observing the world with a kind of depth that pulls her in. You challenge her emotionally. You don't explain every thought, and you don't respond just to fill silence. You leave room for her mind to wonder, for her emotions to rise and fall. You become the experience she didn't know she was seeking. I remember watching a man at a cafe once. He wasn't conventionally attractive, but he sat across from a woman who looked completely captivated. Why? He wasn't trying to impress her. He was telling stories with calm confidence, pausing at just the right moments, letting her sit in the tension. He let silence hang when it needed to. She laughed, leaned in, even mirrored his body language. He was a storm wrapped in stillness. And that's the key. Create contrast. Let your presence shift the emotional rhythm of the room. Make her feel alive, not by trying harder, but by being unpredictable, emotionally grounded, and just out of reach. Because in the end, she's not falling for you. She's falling for the escape you offer. A world where she can feel more, live more, and be drawn deeper into something she can't control. 2. Addiction to strong boundaries. Here's a hard truth that most men don't want to face. Women test boundaries not because they're cruel, but because they're wired to seek strength. It's instinctual, subtle, often unconscious, but it's real. And if you fold under pressure, if you bend to every whim, if you let her lead the frame, you lose her respect. And once respect is gone, attraction follows. Women don't test to hurt you. They test to feel you, to see if your words hold weight, to see if you're anchored, to see if you'll collapse when things get uncomfortable. Every sarcastic remark, every emotional outburst, every shift in energy. It's a quiet question. Can you handle me? The Stoics taught that we must remain unmoved by external things. Epictetus said, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" That's what strong boundaries are, a demand for the best. Not just from others, but from yourself. When you don't enforce boundaries, you send a clear message. I don't value myself enough to expect more. And that energy seeps into everything. It makes your presence negotiable, your time expendable, your standards optional. I've seen it happen countless times. A man starts dating a woman and everything is going well. But then the tests begin. Late replies, little jabs, subtle power plays. Instead of standing firm, he adapts. He apologizes for things he didn't do wrong. He becomes hyper-available. He starts asking, "Are you okay?" Every time her mood shifts, and slowly she loses interest. Not because he's bad, but because he's no longer respected. Strong boundaries aren't walls to keep her out. They're the frame that holds the dynamic together. They tell her, "I'm here, but not on your terms. I don't need your approval. I choose to share my presence because I respect myself." Let's get practical. If she's disrespectful, you call it out. Not emotionally, but calmly. If she cancels plans last minute without reason, you don't chase. You don't guilt. You withdraw your time and move on. If she asks where you stand on something that matters, you don't hesitate. You speak with clarity and conviction. No games, no pleasing, just presence. And here's the paradox. The firmer your boundaries, the more freedom she feels. Why? Because women don't want to lead. They want to trust that you can, that you're solid, that you won't shatter the moment things get chaotic. You can give attention without begging. You can give warmth without weakness. But without strong boundaries, none of it matters. Respect always comes before affection. If she doesn't respect you, she can't truly desire you. And respect is earned not through words, but through consistent action, through calm leadership, through knowing where your lines are drawn, and never being afraid to walk away from anyone who crosses them. Because when you master boundaries, you master the tone of every relationship you enter. And she'll feel it, not just in how you treat her, but in how you treat yourself. 3. The thrill of uncertainty. Predictability is safe. But safe is boring, and boredom is the silent killer of attraction. What draws her in isn't knowing everything about you, it's the not knowing. The spaces between what you say, the moments you don't over-explain, the feeling that she has your attention, but not all of you. That's what creates tension. That's what builds desire. Women don't fall for the man who's always available, always predictable, always responding on cue. They fall for the one who keeps them guessing, not because he's playing games, but because he's too focused on his mission to orbit around someone else's emotions. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't reveal everything, a man who listens more than he speaks, who makes her feel something intense one moment, then disappears into his world the next. That rhythm, that dance between presence and mystery, is the heartbeat of obsession. Seneca once wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a man who is alive." The same could be said for uncertainty. If you fear being misunderstood, if you fear pulling back even slightly, if you fear letting her feel the tension of distance, you'll never create a dynamic she remembers. You'll create comfort, and comfort breeds indifference. I once watched a man interact with a woman who clearly adored him. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but he had this way of making her feel seen without making her feel like she had him. He'd lean in during a moment of connection, then shift his energy elsewhere without apology. He answered questions with depth, but not detail. He gave presence, but not permanence. And she couldn't stop watching him. Why? Because uncertainty pulls people in. Most men kill attraction by overcompensating. They overtext. They explain every move. They constantly seek reassurance. But that doesn't build connection. It suffocates it. True connection is built in the space between presence and distance. Here's the shift. Stop thinking you need to prove anything. Let her wonder. Let her think. Let her sit in that space of not knowing if she completely has you. It's in that uncertainty that obsession is born, not in manipulation, but in energy. Don't always be the first to text. Don't always rush to explain yourself. Don't always be available. Be intentional. Be warm, but grounded in your purpose. Show that your world is already full. And if she wants to be part of it, it's a privilege, not a right. Attraction grows in the unknown, so give her space to feel it. The magnetic pull of leadership. A man who waits to be told what to do has already lost her interest, because while society praises politeness and compliance, desire is drawn elsewhere. It's drawn to leadership, to decisiveness, to the man who knows where he's going and doesn't look around for approval before he moves. Women don't want another follower. They don't want someone who says, "Whatever you want," every time a decision needs to be made. They want someone they can trust to lead, not just in words, but in energy, in direction, in tone. Leadership isn't about control. It's about certainty. It's about presence. A woman feels safest, most attracted, when she senses that the man in front of her knows what he's doing, even when the path is unclear. And she senses that not by what he says, but by what he chooses. The way he holds eye contact, the way he speaks without over-explaining, the way he walks into a room like he belongs there, without asking permission. Marcus Aurelius led with inner command, writing, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And that's the core of leadership. It's not about performance. It's about embodiment. You don't need to convince her you're a leader. You live like one and she feels it. Leadership means you take initiative. You don't wait for her to make the plans. You make them. You don't ask for permission to take the next step. You take it. And you give her the choice to join or step away. That choice, that freedom, is where her respect lives. I remember a moment when I saw this in action. A couple was trying to choose where to eat. She threw out a vague suggestion. He listened, nodded, then said, "I know a spot. You'll love it." He didn't ask twice. He just started walking. She followed, not out of submission, but because in that moment he took the lead. He made her feel safe in his direction. That's what leadership looks like. It's quiet, it's confident, it's irresistible. Too many men try to lead with ego, dominance, aggression, needing to be right. But true leadership is never loud. It doesn't demand control. It earns trust. It provides structure. And in a world of uncertainty, that structure is intoxicating. If you hesitate, she fills the space with doubt. If you lead, she fills the space with respect. So stop outsourcing your direction. Know what you want. Own your decisions. Speak with clarity. Move with purpose. And watch how the dynamic shifts. Not because you forced it, but because you gave her what she didn't even know she was missing. A man who doesn't need to be led. 5. Desire for a man who doesn't need her. Here's the paradox most men never understand. The more you make her the center of your world, the faster she'll want to leave it. It's not because she doesn't want to be loved. It's because she wants to be invited into your life, not made into the meaning of it. A man without purpose is a man who leans. He orbits, he clings, and over time that clinging, no matter how affectionate, feels heavy. It creates pressure, not connection, and that pressure eventually makes her want to escape. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Many men waste their lives waiting on someone to complete them, to validate them, to give them the green light to feel confident. But here's the truth. A woman can never give you the confidence you refuse to build in yourself. When your mission comes first, your goals, your growth, your purpose, you walk with a different kind of energy. You're not distracted by approval or validation. You're not checking your phone every 5 minutes, waiting for her response. You're too busy building something, and in that space, she feels it. She feels the difference between a man who needs her and a man who chooses her. And that choice, that's where the power lies. I've seen men pour their entire identity into a relationship, canceling plans, abandoning their personal goals, reshaping themselves into whatever version they think will be loved more. But what they don't realize is that every act of overgiving, every attempt to prove their worth, chips away at the very thing that attracted her in the first place, their independence. The man who doesn't need her approval is the one she respects. He's not cold or careless. He's grounded. He's warm when he wants to be, present when he chooses to be. But his world doesn't stop spinning for her. That creates contrast. That creates depth. That keeps her chasing. Not because he withholds affection, but because his life is full of meaning with or without her. So here's the shift. Stop trying to win her. Start living for something greater than her. Let her witness your ambition, your discipline, your clarity. Let her feel what it's like to be around a man who has a mission so strong. She's inspired just by being close to it. You don't need to push her away to keep your power. You just need to stop needing her to validate it. Because the moment you show that your identity is complete, with or without her, she sees what most men never give her, a reason to want to stay. The quiet mistakes that kill attraction. You've probably seen it happen before, maybe even felt it. Things start strong. There's chemistry, excitement, curiosity, but somewhere along the way, it fades. The energy changes. She pulls back, not because of one dramatic moment, but because of a slow erosion of tension, polarity, and respect. And here's where most men fail. They kill attraction by trying too hard to keep it alive. They become too available, always answering, always saying yes, always dropping everything to be there. And while that might seem like loyalty, it ends up communicating something else entirely. I have nothing better going on than you. But she doesn't want a man who waits for her. She wants one who's already moving, already building, already focused. She wants to step into his world, not become his entire world. Then comes the approval seeking, the subtle need for her to like everything you do, to reassure you with compliments, to validate your worth. You start asking too many questions, over-explaining yourself, reading too deeply into every message, and without realizing it, you give off the energy of someone who doubts himself. And nothing kills polarity faster than insecurity wrapped in politeness. Add to that the lack of purpose, and you've got a recipe for emotional flatlining, because a man with no mission becomes forgettable. No matter how charming, generous, or good-looking, if there's no fire in your life outside of her, she'll eventually lose interest. Not because you did something wrong, but because you're not going anywhere. Then there's the constant pleasing. You say what she wants to hear. You soften your truth to avoid conflict. You walk on eggshells, thinking if you're nice enough, she'll stay. But the opposite happens. You become predictable, safe, easy, and easy is not exciting. Nice isn't memorable, authentic is. And finally, the death blow. Needing validation, needing to be told you're enough, needing her to constantly reassure you that everything's okay. But here's the Stoic truth. Your sense of worth cannot live in someone else's hands. Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The same applies to power in relationships. It's not about getting more from her. It's about needing less, craving less, proving less, because the less you need, the more you naturally command. These 5 quiet weaknesses, being too available, approval-seeking, lacking purpose, over-pleasing, and needing validation, aren't always loud. They creep in subtly, but together they strip you of the mystery, strength, and self-possession that draw women in and hold their attention. So if you want to master the female psyche, not through manipulation, but through presence, you must master yourself first. Cut the emotional dependencies, sharpen your boundaries, align yourself with purpose, speak with honesty, not strategy. Let your life be so full that anyone who joins it sees you as a storm they're lucky to be close to. Because when a man is grounded in stoic calm, fueled by direction, and unapologetic about who he is, she doesn't want to change him. She wants to follow him. Attraction isn't about games. It's not about manipulation, lines, or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about presence, power, purpose, the kind of energy that speaks before you say a word, the kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself. What we've uncovered in this episode isn't a list of tricks. It's a mindset, a way of moving through the world as a man who doesn't flinch, a man who leads, a man who doesn't beg for affection because he's already full within. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up, if thou wilt always look." And that's where the power begins. Not in seeking her approval, but in mastering yourself. You now understand what most men never will. That she doesn't want your attention. She wants your pride, presence. That she doesn't want to lead. She wants to trust. You'll take the lead. That she's not looking for perfection. She's looking for a man who doesn't collapse under pressure. So stop chasing. Stop explaining. Stop waiting to be chosen. Choose yourself. Lead your own life. And let her step into a world that already has direction. Because in the end, the man who doesn't need her is the one she never forgets. Be calm. Be decisive. Be the storm she can't tame.